All right, all good?
Ready to roll?
Okay, we'll get started. We'd like to welcome Tony Finau into the interview room. He is making his 7th career start at the Wells Fargo Championship with a T16 in 2015, his best finish. Tony, welcome back. First of all, we'll get you to talk about being back at the Wells Fargo Championship.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to be back here. It's a golf tournament that I enjoy playing. You know, as you mentioned, it's my 7th start, so I haven't had great success here, but it is a golf course that I like, and it's a great area. Fans come out in bunches, which I enjoy, and having my experience, I think, with the President's Cup this past year, it's hopefully going to serve me well this week.
And coming in great form, congratulations. Last week, picking up your 6th PGA Tour victory, winning in Mexico. If you can take us back to Sunday and getting that done.
Yeah, it was great. I played 4 really solid rounds of golf, and Saturday, you know, I saw Rombo making a charge, and I was able to hold him off and have a 2-shot advantage on him going into Sunday. And you know, I needed the cushion. I ended up winning by 3, but I knew he was going to be a tall task going against John in the form that he's been in, and to be able to come out on top was a lot of fun, and it's always great winning golf tournaments. It felt great.
All right, great. We'll get started with questions. We'll start with, let's go Bob, and then we'll move over to Cameron.
Hey, Tony, congrats.
Hey, Bob. Thanks.
I guess it's 4 wins in your last 18 starts. Can you pinpoint any difference between this last stretch and maybe why you didn't win as much prior to it? I know you had the win in 2021 too, so you could throw that in there too as sort of in this latter stretch. But is there anything that you're much better at now, or that you're doing that's making a difference?
Yeah, I think I've incrementally hitting the golf ball better just through time. I've learned a lot about my swing and things, so I think that that has helped. But I would say the number one thing has just been my putting. I decided in 2022, the beginning of last year, my number one goal on my goal sheet was don't change your putter grip this year and see what happens. That literally was my first and only goal. Not only goal, it was my first goal, which was just a priority. Anytime I was in a putting rut, I seemed to switch grips or switch putting heads, and it was a quick fix. It wasn't a overhaul, and it was exactly that. I'd have a great week or 2, and then I'd be back in the same mess, if not even a deeper hole, and with my putting further down the stretch. So I decided that I was going to commit to putting conventionally for a full season, no matter how I was putting, just figure it out. And I think I'm enjoying the success of what that looks like for me on just being able to dissect the same putting stroke with the same putter, the same putting grip style, and I think I would say that that's where most of my success has come. Even this year, I haven't putted great before leading into Mexico, and I was starting in my mind to think maybe it's time to switch grips again, and then I won. So I think, you know, with a conventional grip. So I think that I would point to that as the main reason. My putting has been, I think, my Achilles heel in the past, where my ball striking has gotten better, and I've hit it well enough to win more tournaments than I have. I haven't been able to execute with the putter, but that's changed over these last couple of years, and that would be the main reason, I'd say.
Is there a lesson to be learned there? Do people experiment too much sometimes, maybe?
No question. I think there's a great lesson to be learned. It's a lot better to be great at one thing than tinker around with 10,000 different techniques and try and figuring it out. I think Bruce Lee has a saying about something like that. You know, he's more scared of the guy that practices one punch 10,000 times than someone that practices 10,000 things one time. So I'd say I agree with that.
All right, Cameron?
Do you work with Boyd on your putting, or do you have a specialized putting coach?
Yeah, I work with Boyd through the bag, from my driver to my putter. I have a good friend named Derek Fox back in Utah, who's a guy that I bounce ideas off of, who's used to be a playing competitor of mine, but he owns I think it's called Impact Golf Center in Utah. I'll see him when I'm in Utah. He'll get me on the Sam's Lab. We'll kind of dissect the stroke a little bit just to take a more deep dive into what it looks like. But those are the two guys that I'll bounce ideas off of with my putting, Boyd being the main one, though.
And then in the NBA, Giannis had a moment that went viral last week. He talked about how losing is not necessarily a failure. And a lot of people reacted and responded to that. You had said a similar thing after winning Rocket Mortgage. And I was just wondering, sort of, did you feel some solidarity with him when you saw and read about those comments?
Yeah, my manager actually sent that to me. I didn't see it until he sent it to me, and I 100% agree with those sentiments. You know, in sports, we know sports is about winning, but you either win or you learn. You know, it's hard to say that you fail, especially at the level that we're playing at, and just anybody in general. You know, when you're trying to accomplish something, if you're always looking at yourself or something as a failure, it'll be hard for you to succeed. You know, so I couldn't agree with Giannis more. I'm a huge fan of his, and I think he's so great for sports, so great for the NBA. He brings a sense of humility. I think that someone in his position, it's important for our youth to see that type of humility from a superstar athlete like he is. I mean, he's a megastar. He's arguably the greatest player in the NBA year after year. He's consistently shown that he is that guy. So to show that type of humility, and I think that example is pretty dang cool.
All right, Cam, if you'll pass it back. There we go.
Hi, Tony. Congrats on last week. Just curious on your, how do you see the finishing stretch out here? Because a lot of people, you know, they talk about how tough it is. What do you think makes it so hard?
Yeah, the finishing stretch here is unbelievable. They call it the Green Mile. 16 is just a really long par 4 with basically half an island green on the left. 17 is a 200-yard par 3 with half an island green, water on the left. And then 18, you got water all on the left side, all the way, you know, every shot you hit into the green. I would say it's probably the toughest stretch we have in all of golf. The only thing that comes to mind is TPC Sawgrass up there with the Green Mile. But for that reason, you know, number 17 and 18 are some of the toughest holes we play in golf, and they happen to be back to back. Closing this tournament out is extremely difficult because of that.
Any other holes you find especially challenging?
Yeah, I think each hole out here, you face your own challenges. I love the risk reward that number 7 brings. You hit a good drive, take on the fairway, you know, you're going to have like a mid-iron in. If you pull it into that bunker or you push it into the water, then it's a whole different hole. But I think that's one of the better risk reward holes we have out here. But I just think overall it's a great golf course, and you can attack it and play well, but you can also get bit on any hole.
All right, Shane?
Tony, fate has put you with John Rahm a few times now on Sundays. Sometimes you're in the same group, sometimes you're both just going for the title, whatever it is. Is there something you recognize in him, or something even you can learn from him about, you know, how competitive he is and what a player he is? And do you recognize something in yourself that we're two guys that win tournaments, and there's something I can see here that's familiar?
Yeah, you know, John and I would say my game has evolved, and John has helped my game evolve. We've been, you know, basically sparring partners, I would say, for a couple years now. You know, we're both part of the Silverleaf Club back in Scottsdale. I moved there a few years back, and I joined the club. He's there with, you know, Max Homa and quite a few other guys, but I practice with John a couple days a week. And so just being around him has made me a better player. And iron sharpens iron. You know, I hope he'd say the same. You know, just us competing against each other on a weekly basis while we're home, I think has been great for both of us. But, you know, I can only speak for me. He's definitely made me a better player. We're very different players. We have different styles. We have different swings. But biggest thing is we have very different attitudes. But it just speaks to how great I think this game is. You know, there's not one way to play it. There's not one way to think about it or do it. But I definitely have learned from his fierceness and his competitiveness, and how he brings that out to bring the best out of himself.
If I could just follow up and ask you, you know, how is it specifically that he has made you better? What is it like to learn to stand up to that ferocity when you're more of a laid-back guy? Like,
Yeah.
Give me a little bit on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just if you play with someone of his stature and his caliber, often just rubbing shoulders with him, you're going to be better. Talking to him about the game, he speaks about the game as a very simple game. He's very simple-minded when it comes to playing the game of golf, which is very refreshing because it's an extremely difficult game. And sometimes I think we look at it as an impossible game, which, at the end of the day, somebody has to win. And I think my mindset has changed from, how hard it is to win before, and now it's like, well, on Sunday somebody's going to win. There is going to be somebody that's holding that trophy, and I think he's helped me kind of see clearly that mindset because that's the type of mindset that he has.
Okay, Bob.
Tony, what do you think of how the designated event thing's been going just this year, and maybe how it's impacted you, and how you think it'll go next year when they make some changes?
Yeah, I think the elevated events have been great. I think if you look at the leaderboards, you look at the rivalries that it's already created, and the pressure-packed moments, I think it's been pretty dang cool for our game. I think our last one we had Spieth and Fitzpatrick in the playoff. We've had Rombo and Homa. We've had Rombo and Scheffler. So I think it's been quite something, like Rombo and Morikawa, right? So you've had these heavyweights go at it in our game more often, which I think is good for our game. I think we have to move toward how the game is going to be more presentable on TV, how it's going to be more accessible, more watchable, and I believe that that's the best way to do it, is have the best players play against each other more often, and that's what we're seeing. Next year we're going to see more of that, and it's just cool to be a part of it, I think.
I don't know if you saw that, there was a video Sunday night of you and your family on the par 3 course down there. Can you say how that came about, and then how many holes you guys played, and you didn't play any, right? You just caddied.
Yeah, no, I played.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I played. My son and I were out there every night. Yeah, so that wasn't, that happened to be Sunday night, but my son and I were out there every night, and sometimes two of my boys, my younger son Sage is starting to get into it. He during the par 3 contest this year, I had him hit a putt. He doesn't like golf at all. He just likes being with Dad. I had him hit a putt from 12 feet after I hit a shot there, and he ended up making the putt. Everybody went crazy, and it kind of changed his whole persona about golf. He wanted to hit the next putt and the next putt. So ever since then, he's been asking me to play golf, and so I took him out a couple times last week. And but yeah, that was just on Sunday, and somebody happened to catch that. But it was just cool to cap off an amazing week with my boys and be on the golf course. I fell in love with the game of golf, playing evening golf with my dad and my brother, and it brings back memories that are just unforgettable. So hopefully my boys are enjoying it like I was when I was a kid, just being with my dad and my brother, and it's just special to be with them no matter what. If I would have finished second, I would have been with them still. That my boys were counting on me, and that's something that I take pride in. Just as a father, I look at myself, I'm kind of a part-time golfer, full-time father, and that's kind of my thing. My kids are only young once, and my boys are only young once. I want to make sure that I'm there for them as often as possible, and that's also why I have them travel with me. So it's pretty dang cool that we're able to share that special moment on the golf course, having won the tournament, but then shooting straight over the par 3 and having that time with them was a lot of fun.
Okay. Did you win Sunday night too?
Yeah, I cleaned house last week. I beat up on my boy, unfortunately, all week on the par 3, and then was able to take the trophy at the Mexico Open. So it was a good all-around week in golf for me.
All right.
Tony, just curious on your thoughts on the new PGA Tour fall format, which just was released. What are your initial thoughts on that and how it's set up?
Yeah, some great tournaments in the fall. I think they just added one in Cabo. Instead of being at Mayakoba this year, we're going to be in Cabo, which is a really cool place. Now having won the Mexico Open, Mexico just has a special place in my heart. But I think there's some great events in the fall, and I think it is it is going to be very interesting to see how the fall plays out with the amount of guys that normally play elevated events. You know, how many are they going to play in the fall now that that's not accumulating world ranking points and no FedEx Cup points. It'll be interesting to see how many guys are interested in playing in the fall. I think that's going to be the most intriguing part about the fall. But you also will have storylines where guys are now going to be able to qualify for the elevated events through the points in the fall. So I think there's still a lot of intriguing storylines no matter who plays in the fall. And you have guys that win in the fall that are maybe just fresh off the Korn Ferry Tour or just barely kept their card this year. And next thing you know, they're going to be playing in all those elevated events. So I think it's going to be great to watch whether a lot of the top guys play or not.
All right, we'll wrap it up. We got 2 in the back. So we'll go.
Tony, building off of the elevated events structure, it's been pretty front-loaded this year with the designated. How has that impacted your schedule and how you've planned? You know, we've seen Rory now miss 2 rounds skipping this week, but how has it impacted you personally with it?
Yeah, it's impacted my schedule. You know, I've already played a couple elevated events that I normally wouldn't throw on my schedule. And so it has thrown my schedule a little bit for a loop. It'll do the same next year, but I think these are the sacrifices that I'm willing to make as a player to play these events as elevated events. And I mean, it's not that I don't like them. It's just normally tournaments that I haven't played in the past, so I didn't have that much experience going into these tournaments this year. But overall, everybody has to sacrifice a little bit, I think, as far as their schedule was concerned. And this year it's been a couple already. I think it'll be 1 or 2 more as we move forward with elevated events. But the good news is next year I would have now played all of them, and you know, hopefully next time around, at least up to this point, I can play some of those events better.
All right, last one with Matt in the back.
Tony, you mentioned the balance with your family off the course. I'm wondering, with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, I'm just wondering what role mental health plays in your golf game off the course, and if there's anything that you do to kind of train that muscle in your mind.
Yeah, so my dad taught me a very important lesson when I was young. Anytime we were on the golf course, it was all business, it was all golf. As soon as we left the golf course, he told us right out of the gate, he said, I don't want you to talk about golf, I don't want you to think about golf. And it was easy for me to be humbled because I'd go back to my, other 6 siblings at home, and I was just another kid, and I was treated like a little brother that I was, and I was still taking the trash out. My mom still asked me to do the dishes. So I only bring that up because it was like, I don't really mesh my professional life with my family life, and I was just taught that at a young age, and that was really important for me. So then I don't have a suck day on the golf course, and then I take that straight to my kids, and take my anger out on my family. It has nothing to do with them. So I was able to learn that at a young age, and that's still something that I think is extremely important for me today. And my kids remind me of the same thing. They keep me very humble. My wife keeps me humble, but that's what family does for me, and I'm able to be present with my family when I'm with them, and I'm also able to be a competitor and try to be my best version on the golf course when I'm playing golf.
All right, good stuff. Tony, thanks as always for your time. Best
Thanks.
of luck this week.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. Tony, we'll get you. You can stay right there. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yep.